What is up, people? Christina Z. Jones here. I am back again for another one of these Let Me Show You How Self-Publishing Works videos. Today, I'm actually going to be giving you 2-for-1. I feel like these two topics are too short on their own, or not necessarily that they're too short on their own, just that my thoughts are very concise, which sounds like a lie because I don't know if concise is a thing that I'm capable of. And we're going to talk about why that could be a problem in your self publishing journey. So learn from me. Don't get all wordy like I do, and we'll get right into it. Okay, so this is going to be what would have been step 4 along your journey to get your book published, whether that's your first book or not. Your book needs to be professionally edited. It just does. Now, whether or not it has to be for you to put it out is pretty subjective. For a while, none of my projects were professionally edited, and so I don't want to make it seem like if you haven't spent $100 of editing, you won't be able to start your publishing career, because that was not true for me. But I've learned some best practices along the way, and I absolutely think that it is invaluable to have eyes other than your own on your work. Now, even if you're going to hire professional editing, I think it's vitally important to get you some beta readers. And I don't mean your cousin who doesn't even read, who you had to drag into doing this for you, or your homegirl. That's not who I mean. You need avid readers who are going to be able to point out developmental things that even if you hire someone for proofreading, they may not be their mind may not even be there. Like they know grammar, they know how to spell, they know the technical things, but your beta readers are going to be able to point out, wait a minute, earlier in this scene it was 2 p.m. and now it's 5 o'clock in the morning, but there was no flashback or anything like that. Developmental things that are an issue within your book that throw off you being able to tell the story that you're trying to tell. Now, you can absolutely hire a developmental editor, but my feeling is that needs to be kind of your last round of defense. The professionals need to be your last round of defense. If you have betas who love to read, who feel like what they're doing is a joy for them, it's not a chore, they're going to be able to point out those things to you that are, that are potentially, I don't even want to say small things, but they're going to be able to point out the more obvious things to you that they just as the everyday reader are going to pick up. And that way you have those things corrected so that your professional is able to focus on the stuff that is a little more fine grained. Things that are a little more just specific. Things that are a little more just down to the fine details of not even necessarily things that will be picked up from researching your topic or researching, this illness or this job title or this hobby more thoroughly, but things that break up your timeline of what would be a well-constructed book. Your developmental editor is going to be able to pick up stuff like that. Now, I don't know that a developmental editor is always necessary. I've never used a developmental editor, and so that's not something that, again, that's not something that I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's a requirement, but I am saying that these are things that can help you make your book the best that it can be. Now, another thing that your betas may or may not be willing to do, because they're not professional editors, they may be willing to, as they're reading along, say, hey, you missed a comma here, or hey, was this word supposed to be this way, or hey, did you mean for this sentence to be like this? This is a little awkward. They may or may not be able to tell you things like that, things that you can clean up again before it gets in the hands of your professional editor. And in a way, I know it can seem like, well, what am I having other people do that for when I'm paying the editor for something? No, everybody is going to make mistakes. Everybody everybody is not going to see the same things that other people see. And so if you are able to send your editor the cleanest possible manuscript, that is just going to make your final product that much better. Now, outside from just having human eyes on it, there are some tools that you can use in order to, like I said, present your editor with the cleanest possible product. You can use things like Pro Writing Aid, which happens to be, Pro Writing Aid is my preferred software. Even though I have premium copies of Pro Writing Aid and Grammarly, I use them both. I use both of those, and then I run just my grammar and spelling check in Microsoft Word, and often it picks up stuff that neither of the premium programs were able to pick up. There's also a program called Ginger that I've used before. Ginger was a little different. Ginger was a little different, and I can't say I'm not recommending it. It's just that I have a clear favorite. My clear favorite is Pro Writing Aid, and then Grammarly, and then maybe Ginger. Just depending. But like I said, I run all three, and then I go to the documents from my betas, and I apply everything that they pointed out that those programs didn't pick up. I make those corrections, and then I do my own read through. Typically, I do my own read through first, but I do my own read through and I make my corrections that I see, and then I send it to be professionally edited. Sometimes I'll send it to be professionally edited first, and then I'll do my read through just to make sure that there was nothing missed, because often there is going to be something missed. It'll be something that none of the programs picked up, none of my betas picked up, the editor didn't see it, but that final read through is stuff that I know that I didn't mean for it to, be like that. And it might be technically correct, but it's not exactly what I meant to say, or it's not exactly what I meant to put across for that particular character as far as their dialogue or whatever. And so taking that time to go through it, it just makes such a big difference in the project. And now I will say again that I have not always done professional editing. That's only been within the last year or so. My method was using the programs, gratefully utilizing my betas, and just doing the best that I could until I could afford professional editing. And I know a lot of people, well, if you can't afford to have it professionally edited, you can't afford to publish. If I had waited until I could afford to publish, I probably never would have published by that criteria. And so just keep in mind that all of these things that I'm getting across to you, I'm going to be as truthful as I possibly can based on my own experience. But at the same time, I understand that there are barriers. There are barriers that I had that I don't have anymore. There are barriers that I never came against. And so I just don't know. But again, things like giving it your best attention, having a friend who, maybe you have a friend who has an English degree, which is not the same thing as being able to edit. I have to say that, everybody who has an English degree can't edit, they just can't. Is because it's a completely different skill. But education helps with you knowing proper grammar, spelling, etc., things like that. And so it does make you potentially a little more qualified to be able to do something like that. And so have a friend look over it. Trade manuscripts if you have a peer or a friend, another friend in the industry or something like that. Trade manuscripts and just do the best that you can with each other, but definitely do as much as you can. Give it that attention, because a polished final product will cover a lot. That polished final product will really it can really make or break. I remember so distinctly getting my butt kicked and reviews and comments and et cetera about my first project, because not only was it not professionally edited, but I had not done everything that I could in terms of, like I said, letting someone else look at it, looking into tools like Pro Writing Aid, Grammarly, that you have to pay for, but they're not quite as expensive as hiring professional editing. I hadn't done that. I hadn't utilized all of that. And so I absolutely do not recommend not utilizing everything that you do have at your disposal within your budget. But if you have the budget for it, as soon as you have the budget for it, you need to be investing in professional editing. Tips for vetting that editor once you find them. I have only, well, I won't say I've only used one professional editor, but the only one who is still editing now that I could potentially send you to would be Nicole Falls at Trim and Polish. But she she and I were already friends. She and I were already friends. I already knew her. I already knew her work, and so I didn't really have to vet her because I already knew I already knew what I was getting. I already knew what she had to offer. But if you visit Black Girls Who Write on Instagram, and it's just spelled exactly like that, Black Girls Who Write. If you visit them on Instagram, they recently had a post on their page. Depending on when you watch this, you may have to scroll a little bit because it may not be so recent anymore. But they have a post on their page about editors, about other editors in the Black literary community. If you're looking for someone, and so you can reach out to some of the people that are listed there. But you're going to want to look for testimonials. First of all, see what other people who have worked with them have to say about them. Compare prices. Just because somebody is cheap or cheapest, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get a good quality from them. And just because somebody is the most expensive, the opposite is true. Expensive doesn't necessarily mean good quality, and cheap doesn't necessarily mean bad quality. And so look around. What I would recommend is getting multiple people that you might want to work with. Ask if they'll do a sample for you. Send everybody who you're considering, send them the same sample and compare. See who was able to get it the cleanest. See who was able to get it back to you. Well, I won't say get it back to you the fastest because, they can squeeze in a sample, whereas, fitting your whole manuscript on their schedule may not be a thing. But just definitely do your research before you hire someone so that you're not left having paid someone and then not having a good final product on your hands. Okay, there's that as far as the editing. Now, okay, you have your book edited, you have your book finished, you've created imagery, you have your marketing plan in order, and you're ready to go. But one big thing that you have to understand is that marketing isn't the only thing that you have to do to sell your book. Making social media posts and ad space and all of that, it's not nearly the only thing that you need at your, in your arsenal of tools to sell your book. You need to know what your book is about. And I know that sounds silly. Of course I know what my book is about. What are you talking about, Christina? It's one thing for you to know what your book is about, and it's a whole other thing to be able to tell someone else what it's about in a concise way. I'm so bad at this. I hate writing synopsises. I hate I hate everything to do with this because I've been with these characters for anywhere from 20,000 to 100,000 words, and I'm supposed to put that into 300 or 400 words. I'm supposed to put that into 30 seconds or a minute. How? I know it's hard, and it's still definitely not something that I've mastered, but you need it's something that needs to be, you need to be able to do that. If you're you're in on Clubhouse, or you're, I don't know, on a Zoom call or something for your industry, and you get called on, hey, I'm trying to think of like a name that I can fill in for somebody. But okay, I'll just use myself. Hey, CCJ, you've got a book coming out. Why don't you tell us what your book is about? See, what had happened was, it's like, no, you need to be able to say what it's about. And trust me, when I'm telling you guys this, I'm definitely talking to myself as well. I'm still bad at this, but it's a muscle. You got to work it. Use relevant hashtags on social media. I'm going to say that one again. Use relevant hashtags on social media. If you know that your book is not a romance, do not hashtag romance. If you know that your book is multicultural, interracial, etc., 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 do not use the hashtag Black romance just because you are Black, because your book is not. You can, Black authors, Black romance authors, those are things that describe you. But when it comes to your book, you need to make sure that you're using words that are relevant to your book. Do not hashtag your book paranormal if your book is not paranormal. If your book is paranormal, definitely use that paranormal hashtag so that people who are looking for what you're doing can find you. And but also don't use the wrong ones, because the last thing you want is for someone to go into your book thinking that it is paranormal, and it's like, this is there was nothing paranormal about this. This was terrible. And now you've got a bad review because you decided to use a hashtag that really didn't fit what you were talking about. And about this social media thing, like, don't run to social media trying to like be a persona or like trying to fit in with these certain people because you think they're cool, even though that's not really your vibe or anything like that. Just be cool. You're going to find your tribe. And once you find your tribe, by being yourself, by just being whoever you are, you don't have to, you don't have to put on a front like something else. Just be cool. Just be yourself. You start using those hashtags, people start seeing your stuff. People are going to share your stuff. People are going to, because people in this community, I mean, of course, there's, within any community, there's people who, are going to be what they are. But people in this community, we want to see you succeed. We want, a rising, what's the saying about a rising tide lifts all the boats or something like that. You know what I'm talking about. Like, just, just come in with a heart of giving as much as you get. Don't come into it feeling like you're owed something just by being, just because you're here. But you can definitely come in with a spirit of community. And I feel like by being genuine, people will feel that from you. People will see your heart, and you'll be able to, you'll be welcomed in, and you'll be able to get that embrace that you're looking for without having to like put on and try to make it seem like, without it being something that it doesn't have to be. So just be cool. That's all. Just be cool. Another thing about selling your book that I feel like I saw this sentiment a lot when I was first starting out, and I don't know, I feel two ways about it. Like, one, like, remember a few videos back, or maybe the last video, when I talked about being willing to put your book on sale and do giveaways. In the same vein of that, when we're talking specifically about selling the book, you need to choose sensible pricing. And I understand you wrote 150,000 words worth of epic romance, and you feel like, you're looking at other people who wrote a book that was a similar length, and they're able to charge this number for their book. And so that's the number I should charge for my book too. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I just want you to be careful. I'm not interested in undervaluing your work, and I don't want you to undervalue your work, but I want you, if you're new to this, you're still trying to develop your audience, you're still trying to build your backlist, all that, I want you to consider that maybe someone else who wrote a 150,000 word book and is able to price their book at this level and people eat it up. You got to look at more than just that word count. You got to look at the time that person has put in. You got to look at the trust that person has built with their audience. You got to look at the anticipation that's been built for that particular project, a lot of times based on that author's backlist. If you don't have those things, again, I'm not telling you to undervalue your work. I just want you to be smart about this thing. If selling this book is something that you're interested in doing, you're going to have to put that, well, everybody else pricing their book at that, you're going to have to put that down and price your book at a price point that people will be willing to take a chance on you. And I know there's this thing of, well, if I price it too cheap, people won't want to buy it. I don't know so much about that in this, in this industry that, that we're talking about here. I've never been like, this book is too cheap, I'm not gonna buy it. That's never happened for me. I can't speak for anybody else, but I've never seen, a book with a nice looking cover. I read the synopsis, I was interested in the synopsis, and then I saw the price, $2.99. That must be trash. I'm not gonna buy that. That's never happened to me as a reader, personally. So just again, take it all with a grain of salt. I am not an expert. I'm only telling you what my experience has been. I'm only telling you what I know. I priced books at $2.99, and I sold books. I built an audience. I got reviews. People liked them. They came back for the next one. And guess what? Now, when I put out a book, I could price it, at those higher price points because I've built that audience and because I've built that trust, and people are confident in what they're going to get from me. But back then, they weren't. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know what they were, they didn't know what they were getting into with their money. And especially in these times, in these days, yeah, you want to, people are being more careful than ever. And so you got to just be smart about it. Just be smart about it. Don't undervalue yourself, but be smart about it. That's it. So, to recap, you need professional editing. You do need professional editing. But if you cannot afford professional editing, it does not mean you can't publish your book. It means that you need to put as much extra care and attention into the editing as you can. And then when you can't afford that professional editing, you need to get it. Selling your book. You need to know what your book is about. You need to find your tribe and build up that community. And you need to be mindful of your price point so that people want to pick your book up. And so that is those two. That is, let me show you how self-publishing works, episodes 4 and 5. And then I just got one more episode left, and I'll see you guys in a few days with that one. But for now, again, as always, hopefully I was able to give you something useful here, something that you're going to be able to take forward with you, and I'll catch you in the next one.